Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy Holmes, and thank you for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. Let's do it.
Folks, thanks for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. That's Elvis Tribute Artist Files, and we would be totally incomplete without having this next guy on. I mean, he's come out of nowhere and is just taking the world by storm. The one and only Jimmy Holmes. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Ryan. I'm doing good. Excited to be a part of this groundbreaking, project. It's gonna be
Some
cool.
something like that. It's breaking something, no doubt about it. So, Jimmy, I first saw you a few years back. Just immediately was like, oh, this is something special. Something's going on here. And I'm not necessarily in the Elvis world, so to speak. Working with Legends in Concert kind of keeps me away from that in some ways, but I've
Mhm.
seen enough to know when I see something that is awesome. And man, first time I saw you was at Elvis Explosion a few years back,
Mhm.
and dude, it was something special. And it's only grown. Then come to
Mhm.
find out, I talked to guys like Doug Church. I talked to other guys, and they're like, "Hey, this Jimmy Holmes guy has got it all." And and then come to find out that we're going to be working together in January. Something a spot where Sean Clush is usually performing, you're taking his spot. That's high praise, man, and that does not happen very often.
Mhm.
And I think they got the right guy. So I'm excited to just get into this with you, hear your story. You're from DeMotte.
Yes, DeMotte, Indiana. It's a little small town, northwest Indiana, about an hour from Chicago. If you blinked, you'd probably be through it before you knew it. But, that's where I grew up, and it's close enough to Chicago where I can, get on a plane and get to anywhere I need to be. So yeah, DeMotte's it's a cool place. I like it.
It's funny because when I was very, very, very young, like 21 years old, I
Mhm.
drove an 18 wheeler, truck driver, helping
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
bills. And it was always through Trenton, Ohio. There was a
Hmm.
Miller beer plant, and we would always deliver to Chicago, Illinois.
Uh-huh.
But DeMotte, there's a what do you call it, a truck stop there.
Truck stop. Yep.
That was one of our fueling stops.
Hmm.
You only have certain places you can stop to fuel up. And what was
Yeah.
funny is that I would always stop there. And
Stop in the bot, yeah.
so when I heard you were from DeMotte, I was like, "Oh, I know that name from somewhere." And I was like, boom, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny, Yeah, that's I mean if you're going on Interstate 65, it's one of the bigger truck stop areas in probably in Indiana. They got like three of them there, and there's always a bunch of trucks. So that doesn't surprise me, that
Yeah.
you'd stop there.
And it's perfect if you're heading north before you get into Chicago because you don't want
Yeah,
to have to stop there. And yeah,
exactly.
so it was always perfect. But
Exactly.
so I know a little bit about where you're from, but what
Yeah.
I don't know and what everybody wants to know is tell us a little bit about yourself, how you
Mhm.
got involved in this crazy business.
Mhm.
Anything you can tell us about you
Yeah.
um, that people don't
Mhm.
get to see. They'll watch
Mhm.
you perform,
Mhm.
and it's amazing, but sometimes they don't get a chance to really know the human being. So tell us a
Exactly.
little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so the big reason I got into the ETA business at all was my dad, Jim Holmes, when I was, probably 4 or 5 years old, he actually started performing as Elvis. So when he started, I started to get like the look and the feel of the whole business and everything. And I was already an Elvis fan at, 4 or 5 years old, just because, he'd listened to Elvis ever since I was born, and I loved it. So once I saw him doing Elvis, I was like, wow, there's a whole like underground world that I had never, you never knew existed. And so, he would go to and do the, like the Portage Fantasy Fest, and he would go and perform there. The Elvis Explosion, I remember going there when I was, probably 8 years old, and seeing the guys up there and my dad performing on the stage and everything. And so, ever since ever since then, I've loved Elvis and started kind of, studying the Elvis thing even as a kid. I was always crazy into the different jumpsuits and the names of all of them, and I'd be looking them up on Google and seeing all the websites where they had each year Elvis wore this suit this time and whatever, and I really just went crazy for it and thought it was the coolest thing. And so my dad performed as Elvis for probably 6 or 7 years when I was growing up, and I he made me actually the first jumpsuit I ever had was one of his jumpsuits. He had the cape, and he actually made me a little jumpsuit out of the cape of his jumpsuit, and so I started performing on stage with my dad. We'd sing Hound Dog or Teddy Bear or something together. I'd be on a little chair next to him, standing up, and it was really cool. He loved it. I loved it, and once he stopped doing it, he just he loved it, but he always had his own day job and his own business that he owned, so he was just too busy to do both things. And so, once he got out of it, that was probably when I was about 10 or 11. And so then I got into all other types of music, rock and roll. Yeah, I really love the band U2. That was a big influence for me, Bono, and the whole band. And so I became a musician. So I started learning how to play guitar, drums, piano, any instrument that I could get my hands on, I wanted to play it. And so all throughout high school and after high school for a few years, I was in other bands in Chicago. I had my original band and, played guitar, did all the stuff. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, all my gigs kind of, stopped as with everyone.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, during that time, I got like the Elvis itch again. I was like, I'd always been an Elvis fan my whole life, but I was like, I loved it as a kid and I know so much about Elvis. I've watched so much of Elvis on in movies, on video, on YouTube, everything. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like put on a karaoke track on the computer and see if I can even like sing kind of like Elvis and sound okay. And so I think that was in August of 2020, I remember. And I put on, I forget even what song it was, but just, the basic Elvis stuff. And I was singing, and then I ended up as I showed, I was, I wanted to show my dad to see what he thought, because, he did the Elvis thing. He would know if I have a shot at being any good or not. And so, so I, sang him a few songs, and he was like stunned because he didn't, I hadn't sang Elvis since I was, a little kid. And so, you don't know what you're going to sound like, if you can sound like Elvis at all. But he was really stunned and really, was really encouraged me to be like, yeah, do it. Like you could do a great job and do great things. And so I bought my first jumpsuit that year in the fall, and then next year 2021, when things slowly started opening up, I, started finding, Elvis contests to do. They're everywhere, so you can, find one every weekend almost. And so, I went and did the contest thing and did really well, really quickly. And it kind of blew up really fast because, the cool thing about the Elvis contests is you can go around to different parts of the country, even if people, you can't book shows there because people don't know who you are yet, but you can still,
Get a fan
be,
base.
yeah, you can be exposed to a lot of people. And so, that's what I did. Like for that first year, I tried to do every one that I could find, within driving distance, or even I flew to a couple of them and, just started trying to build a fan base through the competitions and stuff. And, I've been lucky enough to do well in a lot of them. And so ever since then, I, started getting offers from promoters to, perform as Elvis and to get paid to do it too, and it was uh it was really a dream come true. And now, from 2021 to now, it's my full-time gig. And it's crazy. It's kind of mind-blowing when I think back to how quickly everything kind of snowballed, or however you want to call it. But so now I'm part of the Elvis world, and it's a really cool experience. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
We enjoy having you. That's no doubt about that. I didn't realize that. I mean, that's a short time from
Hmm.
basically COVID until now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Let's go back to. I didn't. I guess I know your father. I didn't realize that
Hmm.
he had been doing it as much as he allegedly is.
Hmm.
You know, like you said, had been doing it, which is
Yeah.
cool. And
Hmm.
uh, what a great mentor.
Hmm.
Um, how is that relationship? You know, obviously father and son, there's a relationship there, but also
Hmm.
him kind of mentoring you through some of this and whatnot. How's that become a part of your relationship with your father?
Yeah, I mean, he's, one of the biggest Elvis fans I know, even, just as much as me or even more, so every time it's cool because we'll get together and he'll see, this rare clip of Elvis from this date in this jumpsuit doing this, and then we'll talk about it, and it'll be like, hey, maybe you should, put that in your show, and do so. He's always been supportive and encouraging of, what he always said was just to stay true to Elvis and yourself too. Don't try not to copy other ETAs, which is so easy to do because, there's so many of them, and there's more footage of the ETAs than Elvis even. And so, but he always said, keep it true to Elvis as much as you can, because yourself is going to come out no matter what in your performance, because
Right.
everyone is themselves. Like, I'm not Elvis, you're not Elvis, we know that. And so, that's going to come out naturally. But, he always encouraged me to try and do like an authentic tribute to Elvis and the way Elvis performed, and not to get sucked into what, the new trend is within the Elvis tribute artist world, because that's so easy to do, because you see it, and the people sometimes go crazy for it, and that's great. But I try to. He always said, try and keep it as close to Elvis as you can. So
Well,
I've always
yeah,
tried.
and that's excellent advice. And
Hmm.
here's the cool part. It's evident. It's really
Hmm.
evident that you've
Hmm.
taken that advice. I tell
Hmm.
you all the time. Um, a couple things. First of all, yourself will show through.
Hmm.
That is always going to happen. Um, you know, and the one thing is, there are some guys out there, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way at all. This is a talent itself, but there are some guys out there that are so dead on
Hmm.
to one particular video. You know,
Hmm.
let's say it's Aloha from Hawaii, or let's say
Yeah.
it's Elvis, that's the way it is, poke salad.
Yeah.
Um, and they know exactly what he did at this moment. And
Hmm.
and they're literally doing that.
Yes.
And I think that takes a certain level of talent and commitment.
Hmm.
But to me, it's almost like watching paint dry,
Yeah.
because Elvis never went out on stage and said, "Man, I got to be Elvis Presley tonight."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, he was just
Hmm.
like in the moment,
Exactly.
and things happened because he was in the moment and he
Hmm.
wasn't thinking about what he was doing.
No.
And
Hmm.
when you get it into your body, but then just go out and kind of be yourself, that
Hmm.
the Elvis will come out, but you're still being
Hmm.
yourself. And that's when that happens, that's in my opinion the most authentic and entertaining, because it feels like
Yes.
you're watching Elvis, not a person who is a robotic recreation, you know?
Yes. That's exactly right. And that's always, what I exactly what I go for. People always ask, they'll ask, like, do you Yeah, do you recreate an exact performance every time in your head? And I always say I say no because we know on certain songs, Suspicious Minds, we have to do certain things at certain time. That's just part of it. But for the rest of the show, I always say I try and get, as weird as it sounds, I try and get into like Elvis's mind and get his body language down. So when I am doing a show, even if I do something that isn't exactly something that Elvis did at this exact time, it still comes off Elvisy because it has the Elvis vibe about it. That's like the biggest thing for
It's
me, the
something
Elvis vibe
Elvis. Yeah, it's something Elvis could have or would
could
have
have done.
done. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a really good point, man. And I've said this to you. I said, man, you're so stinking good. You're almost too good. As someone who's studied Elvis, like I can watch you and know exactly what you're doing,
hmm
and you're not overdoing it at
hmm
all. You're just
Yeah.
and it's so believable, but
Yeah.
it's not. And that's why you're so good at what you do. It's
hmm
so believable, but it's not a robotic recreation.
Yeah.
And those
hmm
mannerisms, the little things, the little facial
hmm
things, all that stuff,
Yeah.
man, it comes
hmm
together and it is powerful. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Then and the thing is to really appreciate that stuff, you need to have people like, like you and like a lot of fans who know Elvis well, and they pick up on that because, like I know what you're saying, where it to someone who maybe doesn't know Elvis, as well as I do or you do, it could seem like, wow, he's not doing like much of anything up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I always get, you get people who be like, oh, you don't move enough, or you don't, and it's like, that's your opinion, and that's fine, but if you look at Elvis, the era of Elvis that I do, he moved at a few songs, and the rest of the time he was, he was singing, or he was, walking from one side of the stage to the other, playing with the crowd and stuff. And so, I understand what you're saying, where sometimes like it's so good, it's too good to where like the people, it doesn't come off like you're imitating Elvis, And to some people, they want to see that, imitation kind of thing, but it's just, yeah, I get what you mean.
This conversation, man, has been so eye-opening. I totally get Jimmy Holmes now. Um, and this is kind of like the conversation I was kind of wanting to have and
hmm
be able to dissect this, because everything you just said is the crux of every point I'm making.
hmm
Um, we live in uh, a place, a time where there's a lot of guys coming up in this business, don't
hmm
really know anything about Elvis, but
hmm
see, hey, that's fun and you can make money doing it and you get a lot of attention and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And so
hmm
they dive in and man, they're looking for that that awesome Dean Z move,
hmm
or the Cody Ray Slaughter, man, he does this,
hmm
it's or Sean Clush did this.
Yeah.
And I get it. Okay, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
hmm
I get
hmm
it. Um, but and it's become this thing, I think, with fans, even Elvis fans,
hmm
where they just want this over the top rendition instead
hmm
of the reality that was just beautiful, which
Yeah.
was actual Elvis, and
hmm
he knew when to do something, and he also
hmm
knew when he didn't need to or didn't want
Yeah.
to or whatever.
Yeah. hmm
And
Yeah.
man,
It's becoming, yeah, it is really becoming like the people, a lot of the people, some of them are forgetting what Elvis was like, and they expect, the a tribute artist show, and sometimes that's different. Everyone does their own tribute to Elvis, and it's comes across in their own way, and they have their own style, and that's great. But a lot of times I try and think like, I don't want to try and out Elvis. You know, he like that's the Elvis
Point
is yeah,
taken.
Elvis
Yes.
is the guy, you know what I mean? And I don't want to try and outdo him. You know, that's what my way of looking at it.
Jimmy, this is so awesome. You're probably the only person I've ever met in this business
Mhm.
who has made that statement and actually lives it
Oh yeah.
by what you're doing on stage.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, hey man, I just want to do my most sincere tribute to
Hmm.
Elvis. And now I'm gonna go and flip around and do a cartwheel and and
Yeah.
so and that's why I mean I've said it to you, and I think you kind of looked at me like, is I don't know if he is giving me a compliment. It's the biggest compliment.
Hmm.
You're almost too good.
Hmm.
Um, it's so genuine. And man, I absolutely love it. And here's the thing that's awesome. Don't change. Okay.
Hmm.
Don't change because that
Yeah.
authenticity is is timeless because
Hmm.
Elvis is timeless. This other
Yeah.
stuff comes and goes, you know.
Hmm.
And I can tell you from my standpoint, which is different.
Hmm.
It is different because I didn't grow up an Elvis fan,
Yeah.
I got into this because people said, "Hey, you look like Elvis."
Yeah.
Um, I was never into music, all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
But the thing that impressed me about Elvis when I first started watching was, man, the guy's a good entertainer. He's entertaining to watch.
Hmm.
I've spent most of my life, the majority of my life, not in, despite 26 whatever years of doing this,
Yeah.
not in the Elvis world
Yeah.
because I've worked with legends in concert. My job at Legends is to go and be 1/6 of a cast that
Yeah.
is performing for people that probably aren't all Elvis fans.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I have to find a way to reach them. You know,
Exactly. Hmm.
best compliment I ever get is I don't like Elvis, but I enjoyed watching you. I
Yeah.
enjoyed your
Right. Yeah.
performance. So,
Yeah.
but when it comes to the Elvis world, man, don't change what you're doing. Like,
Hmm.
there's times where you'll go into a show. I always say read the audience. I think Elvis
Yep.
was one to read the audience.
Hmm.
And there is this era of, or this mindset of like, I don't have to do everything Elvis did. I just need to know what he did, what the
Yeah.
circumstances were, and that lends itself to what he could have done, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you listen to bootlegs, there's times where he was rolled out on a bed with Charlie Hodge singing a song on
Yeah.
stage in Las
Oh yeah.
Vegas. Elvis
Hmm.
would do stuff like that. Now, do you do
Hmm.
that every show? No, you don't.
No. Yeah.
But you
Hmm.
know that he had that fun, playful side too.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
And
so
yeah.
when
Hmm.
the moment strikes and it's time to entertain an audience, there's a different crowd than in a casino than there is at you know, a, a gospel show,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly.
Read the
Hmm.
room. But man,
Yep.
I think everything you're doing is just, and like I said, I think you might be the only person who's ever claimed it and is actually doing it. Man, God bless
Yeah.
you. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's cool. You know, that's nice. That's nice to hear. You know, because that's what that's the goal. You know, that's why I got into the Elvis business. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Speaking back, back prior to COVID, and you were in some bands and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I've heard you sing some U2.
Hmm.
Still a big U2 fan.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, was any of your band, was it all, you know, stuff like U2, or was it a bunch of different songs? Was it original? What kind of music was it?
Yeah. So I was in a a U2 tribute band for a few years. So I was Bono, the front man of U2. So, we were it was a band based out of Chicago, so we played in clubs and different, different things up there and that was a lot of fun. But I also had a an original band as well, and where I wrote songs, and I had a bassist, another guitarist, and a drummer, and I played guitar and sang, and we played for a few years around the area, and that was a lot of fun, and that's something that sometimes I miss because I don't have as much time anymore because Elvis, like the demand for Elvis is crazy. I mean, you know it. It's so Elvis is like my entire life now of performing and whatnot. But that was a lot of fun to have that creativity of, writing your own music and playing your own music and or just covering other artists in your own way. I sometimes miss singing as myself because, I just pretty much just sing as Elvis now. And, at home sometimes I'll pull out a guitar and strum and, play a song that's in my head or anything. But that was a lot of fun. I really loved, writing and performing, and and that is cool because when we perform as Elvis, the people are coming to see, they're coming to see us. We have the people who like us, but the majority, like, you have to remember you're not the guy. Elvis is the guy and you're not. But when you're doing your own stuff, it's really cool because when, all those people that come to the show, whether it's 10 or 100 or they're coming to see your music and what you did. And so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. But I'm gonna ride the Elvis thing as long as I can, because I love that
I get you,
almost
man.
just as much.
I get you. It is amazing though. It is amazing. It's eye opening
Hmm.
when you perform as Elvis and the fans are real. They
Yeah.
are real.
Hmm.
It's amazing though whenever you try to be yourself without the Elvis train
Yep.
to ride. How
Hmm.
and it's eye opening. It can be
Hmm.
humiliating depending on where your heart and mind is,
Yeah. Hmm.
but it's something else.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you've been down that road. A lot of guys haven't.
Hmm.
Um, I always talk about this though. I would love to see. There's going to be a guy at some point, because there's so many talented people
Hmm.
performing as Elvis. Dean Z is a
Yeah.
very talented human being in his
Oh
own
yeah.
right.
Hmm.
Yourself, very talented. Sean Clush is a very talented human being. I've got some stupid lucky breaks getting to be in a Hollywood film, but
Yeah.
there's going to be a moment where one of these guys, one of these Elvis guys, is going to make it. And I
Yeah.
mean, some people say Bruno Mars did, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
that Bruno Mars was like fully Elvis
Hmm.
guy. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but
Yeah.
there's going to be a moment where it's going to happen, man. And I'm excited.
Hmm.
I look forward to it. Someone like yourself who
Hmm.
is musical, does their own thing, has
Hmm.
written. Someday
Hmm.
it's going to happen, and I can't wait, man. I think it's going to be
Oh
awesome.
yeah. 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 I mean, there are so many guys who are extremely talented in their own music and in their own way, and that's what's cool about doing like stuff like what you're doing is when you get to know that other side of them and see what their interests are, what their other talents are and stuff because um there's I've met so many guys who I would have never thought would be talented here or there, and they are, and it's cool to see it's more than just black hair and sideburns and stuff.
Yeah, right. And the other thing about you that's kind of cool, not kind of, it really is cool. With so much quick success
Hmm.
that you've experienced, you're still just a cool dude, man. You're not like
Hmm.
you're not an ego
Yeah.
walking around. And man,
Hmm.
you know as well as I do that there's a lot of that
Yeah.
goes on.
Oh yeah.
I always thought it was funny how someone could be arrogant just because they were good at pretending to be someone else.
Exactly.
It's kind of
That's the exact, yeah, that's exactly where I see it too. It's like I always say, yeah, at the end of the day, like you have to remember you're pretending to be, this other guy. And
right.
like you said, like you try and do your own thing and see how many of these people stick with you. You know what I mean? That's when you find out that it's not about you. But there's so many guys that it's I don't know. And some of them it's like, you have to I don't know. No one should ever be like have a terrible ego and think that they're bigger than the other guys who are doing the same thing they're doing. But like if you're at a certain level, I can maybe expect it a little more, but there's so many guys who they have no reason to be like that and they still are, and it baffles me a little bit. But
It all, I mean, and I just feel like, people are people, and,
hmm
personalities are what makes the world go round. And some
hmm
people will, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Power is a funny thing. Some people can
yeah,
handle it and some people can't. There's a,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. There's certain people that uh, will get a few people to applaud for them and suddenly they think they are in charge of the world. Um,
yeah,
and that's a power thing that they have. And there's some people that are
hmm
just a little bit more open-minded and saying, hey man, that's wow, thanks.
hmm
I I like the people that tend to be on the second person there, but
yeah, yeah,
so
and I you never I never want to take. I think you're the same way too. I never want to take like myself too seriously. I enjoy doing what I do, and it's I try and keep it fun because it's fun. I try and not take it too serious. I want to do the way I want to do it and do it right. But at the end of the day, like we're singing, like it should be fun, and we're acting, we're trying to be Elvis, who's the coolest, one of the coolest guys ever. So, don't take it too seriously and just, have a good time because that's what it's
roll.
all about.
And a lot of people, to be fair, a lot of people, Jimmy, will say something like, yeah, Jimmy, easy for you to say. You started in
Yeah.
2020 and now look at you. You're one of
Yeah.
the top guys out there. And that kind of brings us to a point that got to bring it up.
hmm
We've got the ultimate,
hmm
this thing that when I was younger and up and coming, there was the worldwide images of Elvis.
Uh-huh.
Doc Franklin ran that, and I went down there in 2000 and for the first time and won it, and
Yeah.
it changed a lot.
hmm
And I think the ultimate is similar in that fashion today, especially with
hmm
Elvis Presley Enterprises backing it. But that
Yeah.
being said, it's not necessarily, they say that Elvis Presley Enterprises is going to, you know, acknowledge you or whatever.
hmm
But when you look at the judges that they have, they're all in some way, shape, or form Elvis fans are connected to Elvis. But man, it's a real subjective thing
It
that
is.
that
hmm
is. I mean, if you could write a book about the psychology behind judging at Elvis contests,
Yeah.
if you figured it out, you would be a millionaire.
Yeah.
It's and I know for myself, it's frustrating, to
Mhm.
go and feel like you've put your best foot forward or whatever, and
Yeah.
maybe not get the results you want. Tell me how your experiences have been with the ultimate. And
hmm
I don't. You haven't won it yet. If you
hmm
continue to go, there is zero doubt that you will be an ultimate champion.
hmm
It's a no brainer.
hmm
I said that to a number of guys in the past. I said that one time to Cody Deanath was feeling down. I mean, it's been like
hmm
the fourth or fifth year that he got, top 10 and top five or
Yeah.
whatever, and just
Yeah.
couldn't bring it home. And I just said, dude, if you stick with it, you're going to win. It's
Yeah.
subjective. Just keep your chin up. And sure enough, he did.
hmm hmm
Same thing with you. And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to go through though. I know I've experienced it.
Yeah. It is. It's I've done uh, a lot of contests, almost like any, all the ones that would come to your mind, and I never got bad nerves from any of those contests until I got to Memphis to the Ultimate. And then it was something, I don't know what it was, but something about it. I think it was just because it's like, okay, and that was 2022 was the first time that I was in it. So that was the next year after I, pretty much started. And so it was like, wow, now, I'm really here with, supposed to be the top guys in the world, in Memphis. And so, the nerves definitely kick in more when you're there. Um, and I've been in it this year, well, it's still 2024. So 2024, I was in it again. So that was the third year in a row. So, and I've I think the first year I made top 10. I didn't make top five. Second year I was second place. And so this year the pressure was on and I ended up getting third. And that I mean, to be fair, to be real, that was really it was really tough to uh to happen because and I love all the guys who are in it. They're all super talented. But you know, when you get second the year before, and then, you know, the guy who gets first isn't in it anymore, you're kind of like, all right, this, you know, I gotta nail it. And then, you know, these guys shouldn't beat me because I, you know, beat them whatever. But you have to remember it's different judges, and every set of judges sees things differently and remembers Elvis in a certain way where, you know, maybe the ones last year saw something different in you and whatever. But yeah, it's tough because, you know, you you work hard, you know, all year to look your best, to sound your best, to perform your best on those days, and and to get the right songs. The song selection is such a
So yeah, it's so
stressful process.
that can make a break. That can
Yeah.
literally make or break you. I don't like
Hmm.
the way they do it at all, but
No, that is the biggest thing is the songs because, you know, you could get two slow ballads that the judges might not even know the song or know that Elvis sang it, and then you're kind of done before you even start.
and I wonder if the judges are aware
Hmm.
of how the song selection. I would almost guarantee that they're not
No,
because of some conversations I've had.
yeah,
But if they were aware that,
yeah,
hey, this guy is the 25th guy,
yeah.
okay, his
Hmm.
there's 24 other songs that can't be repeated that came before him.
Yes.
Name me 24 amazing songs, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and maybe if he's doing 50s, he
Hmm.
might get a song that's good or the
Yeah,
68. But like if this guy's in a jumpsuit and
yeah,
let's assume there's 20 songs before him that
yeah.
it's tough. And that's why there's
Hmm.
a lot of things about the ultimate. Every year that I've ever gone, I've always been like towards the back of the pack.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and one year I even I won the last chance. And so
Oh
you're
yeah.
absolutely last. But
Hmm.
and it was actually an advantage to be in the last chance because you could just throw out songs and they would say, nope, no one had it.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
can't do that in the
I
pecking
know.
order. So
And yeah, the biggest thing about the songs that is funny to me is they um they have you send in, you know, your preference list of 10 for the first round and the top 10 before you know if you've made it to the top 10 or what songs you've gotten for the first round. So that can make it weird because you don't want to leave your best two songs off of one of the lists because maybe you'll get them in the first round and you could get them again and have to repeat in the so it's yeah, it's really like it's just funny. And that's always I always tell my wife Kaylin, I always I'm like, just once I know the songs, then I know it's like, okay, I have to do these songs. Like these are the songs I have. Let's just go do it. But before then, it's just thinking, you know, so much like,
yeah,
man, what if
yeah.
what if I get the 10th song on my list that's I don't even know what that would be. Probably something like Never Been to Spain or something. And how am I going to compete with some guy who has a huge voice doing How Great Thou Art? You know, so that's what's hard
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's very frustrating, but you know, it's also even just being in the contest, it's, you know, a good stage to be on. You get seen by so many people who come to Elvis Week and, you know, so it definitely has and I mean, it has its ups and downs. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what the future holds. You know, I know like you said, Cody Danath had to do it 8 times, 7 times or something. Same with like Dwight Eisenhower and stuff. So, you know, some of the guys, you know, they they make you stick with it sometimes as, you know, as much as you're willing to.
Right.
So,
I
yeah.
get it. And you know, at the end of the day, um, I think the ultimate's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Hmm.
not, and I'm in no way, shape, or form. I don't like the process. I'm allowed to not like the process and still be okay with it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I just think there's a better way. I'd love for them to say, "Hey, Ryan, come on," and because I do produce a couple of things, I'd like them to say, "Hey, come on, and why don't you help us produce it there if you think you're Mr.
Yeah.
Big Pants?"
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'd be happy to."
Yeah.
Um, but it
Hmm.
does take a little attention to detail and really,
Hmm.
you know, wanting wanting the experience to be. That was a thing, man, with the ultimate for me.
Hmm.
I never I never go on stage worried or thinking. I'm just like happy to be
Yeah.
there and entertain.
Hmm.
And the ultimate felt like work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when I just kind of had to step back and say, you know what? Why am
Yeah.
I doing this? Am I doing this just for accolades and a title?
Hmm.
That would be probably why.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't I don't need that to justify, an amazing life and
Yeah.
career. So it
Hmm.
is what it is. But
That's, yeah, that's like, you know, I'm not ruling out anything, whatever, in the future, but that's like after this year, that's what I thought to myself, and I thought through everything, and I was like, I out of this whole week, or 3 days or whatever the ultimate is, um, I didn't, I didn't think about Elvis once when I was on the stage. All I was thinking about was what I had to do to, impress the judges, and the thing with contests, you have to fit all of that into one song, maybe two songs at the most. Like you have to fit, at a show, you have the first, three songs or something to get that feeling, to get it
yeah,
going with the crowd, to feel out the
there's a
audience.
there's an arc to a
Yeah.
set. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
but with a contest, especially when you get one song on stage and then you're off, it's so hard to for one to remember to do everything in your mind, but to get it all in that one song. And then, like you said, then the natural way of performing is totally changed into almost like a robotic
Yeah.
thing to where, okay, I need to do, this move here, walk here, there, and it's yeah, that after this year, that's how I felt. I was like, man, this doesn't feel like it doesn't feel fun to
Yeah.
me, and so we'll see what the future holds, but that's kind of where I was after this year.
Yep, I totally get it, man. And you have, listen, I encourage you to continue because you will win.
Hmm.
But I also totally get it. And I don't think that this, at the end of the day, this business is about people and it's about
Yeah.
entertaining and taking this guy's music that people loved. His music lives on. He just
Yeah.
doesn't have a body to perform it,
Yeah.
and that's
Hmm.
what we are. And we bring people a lot of joy, a
Hmm.
lot of happiness, especially in a
Hmm.
world that isn't always the nicest place.
Yeah.
That has far more value than a title.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's just my thoughts and opinions. But
Hmm.
well, what do you say, man? You ready for some questions, quick fire questions and answers?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I'm not going to put you on the spot too much. All right.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Yeah.
anything crazy. Just fire away and have some fun with it. All right.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I know you said, you started performing as Elvis basically in, 2020,
Yeah.
2021. But how long have you been what you consider an entertainer in your life?
Oh yeah, probably about 10 or so years
All
now.
right.
Ever since, probably my senior year of high school. So
All right. Did people in high school say, yeah, he's going to be a singer of some sort, entertainer of some sort?
yeah, definitely. I think
Okay.
everyone knew I was going to do something in that
Oh,
area.
all right.
They didn't know if I was going to be, busking on the side of the street or doing what, but they knew I was going to be doing, something with music because they knew I loved it so much.
All right. Did they know in high school that your dad performed as Elvis?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
What's your favorite Elvis song? Now, this is a twofold question. Favorite
Uh,
Elvis song, period. And then
okay.
favorite Elvis song to perform.
Okay. My favorite Elvis song, period, is it's got to be My Way. That's like to me that's you know that Aloha from Hawaii performance when he sings, I mean that's like pinnacle Elvis in my opinion. So I love that song is my favorite. It's so hard, but I would say that one.
Okay.
And then my favorite song to perform. Oh, that's a tough one. I like I like the high energy stuff. Polk Salad Annie's always been like one of my favorites. Ever since I was a little kid, I loved when I saw Elvis, like That's the Way It Is and Elvis on tour, just the energy that the band had and Elvis had. I've always loved it. So every time I perform that song on stage, I have a good time.
Well, I get it. That's cool. Out of all your performances, and it could be a venue, it could be a crowd size, it could be just a moment where something happened. What's your favorite performance moment to date in your career?
Yeah. Favorite performance moment to date. I would say it's that's tough. That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Probably I got to this was back in 2022, so it was the second like my second year I was doing Elvis. I in Las Vegas, they did a festival at the Westgate or what, the Hilton where Elvis performed, and they held a contest there, and I was in the contest, and I was lucky enough to win. But to do it on Elvis's stage, and even to perform there, just to be in that building was it was a career highlight moment. I like standing on the side of the stage before you come out, and all was going through my head was like that shot, and That's the Way It Is when he's walking, like in that exact place. And so, it really brought back all the Elvis nostalgia and everything in me. So to perform there, that was probably the highlight so far.
I get it. That's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
really good one.
Mhm.
Um, what's your favorite? uh, and this could be tied into the last question, but maybe not. What's your favorite accomplishment in performing?
Yeah, favorite accomplishment in performing. That was a really cool, accomplishment to have there. I've been able to win the Images of the King contest. Like it's not as prestigious now because you have the ultimate, obviously. But that was a really cool one too. But just I mean, my goal always when I went into this, I wanted to travel the world and perform worldwide as Elvis. And so I've been able to do that and been to places like I've always wanted to go to Australia and perform. I was just there in November. I wanted to go to Europe and perform. I've been there and done, and so that's just the biggest accomplishment to me is just to be able to, that was my goal when I came into it. The
Sure.
winning stuff that's cool too, but I wanted to perform my own show, all over as many places as I can. So that's the biggest accomplishment to me.
Yep, absolutely. What's the best part of being an Elvis tribute artist?
Best part of being the Elvis tribute artist, just the diplomatic answer. This is a good answer too. Would be like, and it's true. The fans and seeing and bringing back the memories to them, and that's awesome. Having someone come up to you who said, I saw Elvis back in 1975 or whatever, and you brought back memories, and I it felt like I was watching Elvis, even if it was only for this much time or whatever, and that's amazing to me. But also, personally, one of my favorite things about it too, like I said, I was always into the jumpsuits and everything. So having like your own personal collection of replica Elvis jumpsuits is still really cool. I think it's awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
those two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the worst part of being an Elvis tribute artist?
Oh, probably so much, so much waiting around. Like it, like everything. you get to a place and you have to get there to do sound check, and then you do sound check, and then you're waiting, and then you're back at the hotel, and then you're waiting, and then after the show you're at the airport and you're waiting, and it's a lot of there's a lot of dead time where like you kind of have to figure out your own way to entertain yourself.
Right.
So that's probably my least favorite part.
I think it's funny. A lot of people think that the life you live in this business or just entertainment or any of that is glamorous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
moments that just aren't that glamorous. And I can
Yeah.
say that from acting too. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
moments that just are not that glamorous.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. That's a good
It is.
answer.
Yeah, it's a lot of yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun too. Like there's so many, you know, things that memories that you make of, the times when you're off stage, because you're only on stage for a very short period of time compared to everything else that you do.
That's the best part, honestly. A lot of the memories and whatnot that I have over the years,
Yeah.
there's some that have been on stage, but a lot of it is just stuff that happened off
Hmm.
stage, maybe with the band or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just those
Hmm.
moments of yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's awesome, man.
Hmm.
And last question. If you could meet Elvis today, right now, what would you say to him?
Probably I would I don't know. I mean, if I was doing what if I'm doing what I'm doing now, I probably just thank him for giving me and like so many others such a good life of being able to, entertain people for a living. And I would say thank you for all the music and everything that he did, because he paved the way for so many people. I mean, there's so many guys who perform as Elvis. It's crazy. And so, he's done so much for so many people that he never met, probably more than almost like any other artist. I mean, it's Elvis still is so in demand. It's so interesting to a lot of people still. Like even if they're not Elvis fans, Elvis it's always interesting to them, and they're always intrigued by Elvis and all things about it. So, I would tell them that like you were remembered because that was his thing. He always was worried that people weren't going to remember him. But look, 40, this will be 47 or
90,
40. Yeah,
uh,
90. He'll be 90 years old, and this will be
48.
2025 will be 48 years after he passed, and still, I mean, what's going on today? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I would tell him thank you and that everyone remembered you.
Oh,
Everyone.
and I think he would probably look at you and say, thank you for keeping my memory alive the right way.
I would hope so.
All right, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And if you get a chance, check out Jimmy Holmes. I'll be performing with you here very shortly in Atlantic
Yes.
City at the Hard Rock
Hmm.
Casino. So come on out and check that out. But
Hmm.
I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with you more, even in the future. And if you ever need anything, if you got anything special, drop by and let me know and we'll get you on. But do you have social media websites, any of that stuff so people can follow you?
Yes, yeah. Facebook, Jimmy Holmes as Elvis. Um, Website is jimmyholmeseta.com. And I think Instagram is Jimmy Holmes ETA or something like that too.
All right.
So
If they
look
go to
all
your
those up if
website,
you
they
like.
can find all the social media links, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
jimmyelviseta.com.
JimmyHolmesETA.com.
What did I say?
Jimmy Elvis.
Oh,
I mean, that's a good name too.
yeah.
That's like those old like guys back from
Yeah.
the 80s or something that would
Oh,
have a name like Jimmy Elvis or something.
yeah. 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 Exactly. Hey, man, my name's Ryan Elvis.
Right.
Uh, hey, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Be
Uh,
amazing. God bless you. And thanks for coming on. All right.
all right. Thanks, Ryan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, not Jimmy Elvis, Jimmy Holmes. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the ETA Files community. And if you're looking for something a little different, be sure to stop by my podcast, The Ryan Files. Keep rocking, my friends, and I'll see you next week with another story from the Elvis Tribute Artist world. In the meantime, check out these video links below.